It's been a while, but it's time to get back into review mode as I take a look at the Generations Ultimate Gift Set, which was very generously provided to me by Capel Toys. Go check them out. So here you'll see we have a set of 2 Legends, or I suppose really you should call them Legion because they're more like Cyberverse figures with the weapons they've got, and 2 deluxe figures in the set. I'm going to get the sort of weird things out of the way first and say that there's bio on the back of the box which basically illustrates this as a battle pack where you've got Optimus and Jazz going against Thundercracker and Motor Breath, who will from this point on be known as Motor Master just because that's who he is. And it's like, come on, it's 2 tiny Decepticons going against these big Autobots, and it's just, come on, it's no contest, it's not fair. And I'd rather not think that there's actually a story behind this set because that just sounds ludicrous. So, hazy backstory aside, let's get down to looking at the plastic. Let's begin with Thundercracker, just because he's Thundercracker and Thundercracker's the best. You'll see he is basically just a repaint of the Reveal the Shield Legends Starscream, but they have added holes in his hands which allow him to hold these guns. Comes with 2 little null rays, which it's a bit baffling to consider he comes with because that's what these bits are meant to be. And they can't go on the sides of his arms, they have to go in his hands, or like I've got here, stored on his back. There is a way, however, that I found you can sort of cheat and make it look like they're on his arms. So you can plug this end piece here into the hole in his wing and put his arm up, and you know, it looks like he's aiming it forward, shooting. Pew pew. If you don't have the Legend Starscream, then the articulation on this guy is probably a little bit baffling to you. His legs only go that way and that way. I mean, he's got ball jointed knees, but no hips to really make use of them. And he's got shoulders that don't go any further than that because the wings just get in the way, like with every other Seeker figure. His head turns a bit as well, which is pretty good. But I have to say the best thing about this guy is his paint. He's just got a lovely shiny silver on his chest and a nice sort of bronzy coloured cockpit there. And he just looks like Thundercracker. Could do with a pinch more red, but I'm not that bothered. If we go for a close-up here though, you'll probably be able to tell his eyes are painted just a bit squiffily. The paint basically runs off the side of his face. It's not really a deal breaker. It's something that should have been done a little bit better, but I can forgive it and just imagine that it's like his eyes are glowing really brightly or something. I'd love to be able to show you a comparison with this guy and the original Starscream, but I just don't have him with me, and it's an excuse I'm going to have to make for all the other figures in this set. So if you're looking for comparisons, I'm afraid I can't give you them. Transforming this guy is simple, as it would be for any little Cyberverse Legends figure, whatever you want to call them these days. But it's a bit weird for a Seeker transformation. You take his head here, flip up the cone. Oh, are we going to get a repaint of cone heads? Maybe. Flip that down, turn his head around, and make an unfortunate inappropriate mode. Lift the arms up into the space where the head was, fold them up, and fold the gun bits over to cover up the hole in the middle. Next you come to the legs and flip out these back wing sections, and then rotate them, the hips all the way around where they notch in with this square peg. And there you have it, Thundercracker's vehicle mode. It is just a nice little Seeker jet, a little tiny F-15 with lovely big Decepticon symbols on there. And thanks to the holes in the wings you can go and get his guns underneath and make him look even more G1-y. This is just a very nice little jet mode, and I can't really find any way that it could have been painted any better. Of course there's a lot of stuff hanging off the bottom, and you can just see there's a fake chest under there, and there's his head. But for a Legends figure, come on, you've got to forgive it. The engines are painted black, it's got nice red stripes. I think the only thing I would have preferred is to have these Decepticon symbols all shiny, like old stickers. But there you go, that's Thundercracker. Definitely worth having. Next we have Motor Master. He's just a repaint of the Reveal the Shield Optimus with a nice sword that is just so accurate to his G1 self that I really can almost not believe they made it. Now, you may have heard rumours that the revealed the Shield Optimus can hold things like this, but that really isn't true. His hands are far too wide, and this guy has proper little 3mm holes. Although I have heard that this has been repainted back into Optimus in a single pack, I don't know, some shop in America, Family Dollar exclusive thing, and he comes with a little sword. So if you're really sort of itching for something like that, look for that. But we're talking about Motormaster. Now, this might seem like a just really easy redeco, just make everything that was red black and, you know, give him grey legs, but when you really look at the original Motormaster, you'll see this is a pretty faithful colour scheme, but it mostly sort of shows itself in truck mode. It's a bit of a shame that these days the only sort of Motormaster figures we get are just Optimus Prime repaints, but I suppose there's a reason for that, and that his truck mode looks just like a black Optimus, or the truck from Terminator 2. Now, sadly, here is where I have to begin with some negative points for this set, because when I compare, I mean, I can't really compare the way this guy feels with the original Optimus, but he's just a lot flimsier. The joints are looser, especially on the legs. His head just likes to just sit back down in there like that. He just doesn't feel as good, and the plastic just, I mean, it's not bad for a little figure like this. The plastic doesn't ever tend to be very bad, but you can just feel it's a step down in quality from the original. And that's a bit of a shame, but I guess it's just indicative of oil prices these days and the economy as a whole. Transforming him is basically just transforming Optimus Prime, of course it is. Flip down his head, spin him round at the waist, clip his legs together, fold them up at the waist there, bring his shoulders together at the top, and move his arms in to fill the gaps in the sides. And you've got this nice little black truck, the nice shiny grille, purple windows, a little Decepticon symbol on the side there, and it just looks nice, and it looks like Motormaster, even without the big trailer he should have really. You might just be able to see amongst all that black plastic that there is a hole on the top there that you can clip his sword onto for storage, but that just doesn't look good at all. Next we come to the first of the two deluxe figures in the set, which is Jazz. Now, you'll see he's sporting a bit of a wacky and wild deco. That's because he's based on the G2 version of Jazz, and I've got to say, I like it. This figure is pretty excellent as an update for Jazz, and the original was really good, but I've got to say, I think this guy looks better. I mean, while he does share the problem that the other figures in the set have in the fact that he is made of slightly inferior plastic, I still think it's just a really nicely done figure, and that's probably because of the paint. But in any case, his joints still feel good. Some of them feel really tight, especially some of the transformation joints like in his legs here. But there is just no escaping the feel of this guy's plastic. It's just, I really can't tell what it is. I mean, it doesn't really feel bad, but it does feel slightly lighter than the original. It just seems like a sort of texture of plastic that you can instantly tell is cheaper, but it's hard to describe why. Despite the stock pictures, Jazz's gun is still black, although you will be able to tell it apart from the original by this blazing piece of turquoise under here. And as always, you can flip out the speakers and tab them onto the sides of his gun to make his ghetto blaster, but it just doesn't really seem to fit quite right this time round, and there's no really clear reason as to why. They just don't want to line up. Now, Jazz has got the smidge of light piping, but much like the recent Fall of Cybertron Jazz, it just doesn't really seem to glow that well. The clear plastic seems really dense because it just doesn't let through a lot of light. Now, I'd say I won't show you the transformation because you can go and look at that in my previous review that I did with Matter Smasher of the original Jazz, but I seem to remember I didn't cover that in that video, so let's go for it, shall we? First thing you want to do is just take the roof section and bring it down from the top of his back, which lets you flip his chest up, that in turn folds his head in under there. And rotate the arms so they face out like that, and the sides of his shoulders are front ways. Then you can take these two halves, folding them in, which is a process which is more temperamental on this figure than the original, it seems. Next, with the legs, fold the feet in and collapse everything up and in, so you have two back halves of a car. Stack them together bend his knees the wrong way round, and angle them up to tenuously tab into the roof there. That's something that never feels good. Then you can close the doors and tuck his arms away underneath, like so. The final touch being taking his gun, folding it up, and putting it under the front of the car. And there you have Jazz's vehicle mode, with these sort of 90s colours and massive Radio 1 logos. He does have his name written across his spoiler, and on the back there, and you know what, I really don't mind. Now, I think this is where this figure trumps the original. I mean, the level of paint is just so nice. You've got all this really light blue or turquoise, whatever you want to call it, going round the edge. He's actually got tail lights. Finally, there's paint on the back end. These nice orange music note logos going around here. The stripes that run all the way down. And a painted grille as well. It may not be as smooth as the original, but maybe it's because I'm a child of the 90s and I just really find it interesting. It's just nice to look at from every angle. Definitely a top-notch repaint. Next we come to Combat Hero Optimus Prime. A redeco of the Reveal the Shield laser Optimus Prime that I never got, in a colour scheme based on an unreleased G2 figure. I think it's nice, but this is the figure which really shows how quality of plastic has degraded in the last couple of years. He just feels really light and slightly brittle. The plastic just doesn't seem to be up to the job that much. The pieces that are cast out of this red plastic just don't look good because it's a really weak colour that then makes it look weak structurally somehow. As far as I know, this guy has more paint on him than the original in general. That sort of techie detail on the chest windows. It is a bit odd that he's got a red faceplate, and well, I suppose the whole colour scheme is a bit odd for an Optimus Prime, but that's only because we've never really seen this sort of thing before. But I like this figure. I think the colour scheme is just nicely different. We see far too many red trucks that are called Optimus Prime, and it's nice to have something that's a little bit different, I think. I had heard rumours that this figure is insanely poseable, but to be honest, I can't really see it myself. Yes, he's got, you know, ball-jointed legs, there's a swivel. He's got knees, but they don't bend that far because of the way the wheels work. The ankles are nice, yes, you've got lots of tilting and swivelling here, which is all very good. He has got a bit of a waist swivel in there, but it's just stopped by his backpack. His head's on a nicely moving ball joint, but that's nothing really out of the ordinary these days, with most Prime figures having that. The arms move freely, despite all this stuff on the top of his shoulders, but they don't move out very far because of that. I suppose the best bit is the way the wrists work, in that they swivel down so he can actually point his sword at people. All in all, there's enough articulation to get him into some good sword-wielding poses, double-handing it and all that sort of thing, but I wouldn't call it anything amazing. What is amazing, however, is the level of light piping they've worked into this guy. I mean, it's meant to emulate the light-up feature of the original laser Optimus Prime, and I guess it works to an extent when you can't really put batteries in a figure this size. There's translucent red plastic running through his shoulders that just lights up so nicely, along with his head, but it does mean he has menacing glowing red eyes. But I do like that sort of glowing stripe pattern there. It's all sort of Tronny and War for Cybertronic. His chest is also translucent, and if it weren't for all this techie detailing, you might be able to see that there's a matrix sculpted in there. Now that is a nice touch. Another nice touch to round out his robot mode is the fact that you can use this fuel tank mudguard assembly on his back as a sort of sheath for his sword, and that's just a nice way to store it. It just looks cool, and he can just about bend his arms around to make it look like he's drawing it out. The sword itself is really nice. It just seems slightly movie-ish, but I don't know, I just really like the way it looks. It's just got enough detail to make it look interesting, and it forms part of the vehicle mode, and it's just nice for an Optimus to have a nice big sword. Especially with the way Prime is at the moment, with Optimus having that Star Saber, and no figures really come with anything that can approximate that. You can't deny Optimus Prime looks good with a big sword. Transforming this guy is a little bit of a hassle, but I'm going to go through it anyway, especially as it's a completely new figure to me. You start off with the sword, untabbing this hilt bit and sliding it down, folding up the handle, and that will make the trailer hitch. Taking Prime himself, you want to lift up his chest here, So you can angle it back and then lift up this top section, flip his head in, and then fill up these gaps in the side with the matrix panels that were inside his chest, and flip his head in. You want to angle the arms round so the elbows can bend like that, and bring the shoulders up together to make the front of the truck. Next you want to fold his feet in, where they do actually peg into place, and bring those heels up to make what would be the backlights, I suppose. Then you take the ever so clever wheels here, slide them out and rotate them round, where they come together like that. Once you've done the same on the other side, you can go between his legs and flip out these panels that make the insides and fill up the holes. Then you want to take apart the sword sheath assembly here and flip it down. This is where you get the sword involved, with these tabs that sort of stick out, making the blade look a bit of a funny shape. They all tab into the inside of his legs. A feat which isn't always easy, but it does let you then tab his legs together properly. You can then straighten them up as much as they go. They do still sit a little bit bent off at an angle. I don't know if that's just mine or I don't know. They tab into this horribly coloured red section here, and then you can bring the arms round, flip up these panels. Again, something which isn't the easiest thing to do, considering the fact that if you push on them directly, they'll just fold back into the hollow space inside here. But to top it off, you just flip down these fuel tanks to cover up his hands, and there you have Optimus in his racing truck mode. It's a little bit sort of unorthodox, maybe. Of course, it's, you know, not too far off the movie sort of long-nosed cab, but it feels a bit more rounded and sort of smoothed over and just smaller in general, I guess. I like it. I think the main thing I like about it is the colours. It's nice metallic blue and the red windows and the nice big G2 Autobot symbols on the sides. It's just done really nicely. And it's got all the details a truck should have. It's got a trailer hitch there and some lights which aren't painted on the back. The tyres just look really good. This is the first Optimus I've seen that actually has double wheels like most trucks actually do. One thing to note, these bits on the sides of, well, would they be fuel tanks maybe? They're clip-on points, so I suppose if you don't have any clip-on weapons and you had this set, you could put Jazz's speakers on there, or otherwise just go to town and arm this truck up. So there you have that. It's just a nice looking truck. So there you have it, the Generations Ultimate Gift Set, which is, well, pretty almost ultimate, I'd say. It's definitely worth picking up if you just want a bundle of really nice figures, especially if you don't have any of these moulds, because they are all pretty good for what they are. These guys over here are some of the best Legends figures. These guys over here are probably some of the better deluxe figures. I'd say though it's probably not worth it if you're only getting it for one figure, because the prices these sets go for, it's a bit varied, but if you're outside the US basically and you can't pick it up in a store, I'd say sort of give it a good think over and only really go for it if you like everything you see here, like I did. And I'm really glad I did, and I'm very thankful to Kapow Toys for chucking this my way. It's just excellent, and really just go and get one. It's a nice sort of big Christmas present. Yeah, put it on your Christmas list, why not?